What is happening, Nerd Nation? Welcome to another episode, 9 Nerd Yards, Ultimate Fighter Breakdown, episode 9. This season is rolling on through. And you know we got to have our boy, the inside man, the one, the only, Mr. Kurt Holobaugh. Kurt, how you doing, baby?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah. Pretty normal at this point, and we love it, man. Bro, this episode right here, I told you before we got started, I have so many questions because there was just a lot like going on. Also, in the first half of literally like it was just the first half was just house stuff and preparation work, but they featured you a lot, man. You got a lot of screen time, bro.
Yeah, for sure, man. I've been hoping they would show a little more house stuff, which in a way, uh, this is a reality show, but they've broken it down week by week, and it's like they're kind of the same thing. You get a little clip of each guy, you get their home life, you get a little clip of each of them training, you get the weigh-ins, and you get the fight. And it's just there's so much at that house, and me and all the guys were like, man, I hope they start showing some house stuff soon. So hopefully, with all the quarterfinal fights out the way, and now only the semifinals left. We got what, 3 more episodes now. Hopefully
Yes.
they'll break down a little bit more and show more house stuff.
Yeah. I hope so, man. I liked. Okay, so speaking of house stuff, right? So in this episode, well, let's start. Let's start from the beginning. You walk in the house, and I'm gonna guess this was right after all the fights happened. Was that the timeline that this occurred? Like you guys are walking into the house after all the fights, and they're like, "Go home. We're gonna," and you'd already met with Dana, and they're like, "We'll figure out the fights when y'all get home." So you guys walk in, and there's this big old poster about who's fighting who, and then the team or the potential team switching. When you saw that, were you like, bro, what are they gonna did they explain to you before you saw this, or was it after you saw this that you're like, they were like, you don't have to go, but this is what we're thinking?
So it was probably about a day after the quarterfinal fights that they started making the matchups.
Okay.
Or the day after is the day we probably went to Dana's office, talked to him, you know, shot our shot to see who we wanted to fight. And I want to say the day after they put all the fights together, we come home from whatever we was doing. We might have been at practice or something, and we come through the door, and boom, there's the fights. And then
Wow.
then questions started to rise. These guys are on the Team McGregor side, and I was one of the guys over there in
On
the
the McGregor side,
Team
yeah.
McGregor side. And they're like, "Does this mean they have to go to the other side?" And we were clueless on that for maybe a day or two. Nobody knew what was going to. We didn't know if they was going to make us go to the other side. We didn't know if it was optional for us to go to the other side. So me and all the boys, we kind of got together, especially the 55ers, and we're like, "Look, I know we're fighting each other, but we made a pact at the beginning of this that we're going to keep training with each other, man. None of us want to go over there." And even the other guys like um, Jason and Rowe, they was like, "No, man, y'all need to stay right here with us, and we'll figure out our training. We'll train around each other. It's fine." But none of us wanted to go to the other side.
Right. Yeah. No, it seemed very when they showed you, it seemed like they were very anxiety induced. Like you're like, bro, I don't know if I'm gonna have a good time anymore. Like right now, I think that was something to that effect, is what you said.
Yeah, for sure. Like they showed the clip, and I was like, "Man, they done messed my mind up," because at
Right.
that
Yeah.
time we didn't know what we're gonna have to do. I'm thinking they're gonna try to make us go over to McGregor's
Uh,
side, and I'm like, man.
yeah.
And I already told him, I'm like, if I got to go over there, this is what I'm going to do, because you don't have to go to practice. It doesn't matter. You can stay at home and say, look, man, um, I'm just going to stay at home. I don't need coaching. I don't need anything. I just want to stay at home, do my own workouts, and I'll show up and fight on fight day. Like, they don't make you go work out. It's an option. You can stay at home. And
Okay.
so my first initial thought was, if they try to make me switch teams, I think I'm just going to maybe ask maybe a guy in the house, see if they can coach me or corner me. or and stay at home and get workouts with these guys and get a guy to hold some pads, wrestle. We had a gym at the house and stuff.
Okay.
So that was my first initial thought if they was gonna make me go over to the other team.
Dang, bro. That's I mean, I get it though. I think yeah, a lot of team camaraderie there, but just sort of like, yeah, that's very anxiety inducing when you're like, well, and nobody clarified it for you, right? Like they show that clip, and then when you're watching it from home, Dana's like, well, they don't have to go to the other team if they don't want to. But I'm like, when did they tell the guys in the house this? Because everybody's freaking out. Like they don't like they're not hip to what we as the audience know. You know what I mean?
Right. And yeah, I don't think they told us for a couple of days, and that was just kind of like the reoccurring question. Chandler was texting Dana, Chandler was texting producers, trying to figure out, what the plan was, what the deal was, what are we supposed to do. But the whole time we're like, look, until they tell us something, we're just going to keep doing our things. And that's what we did. And finally, a couple of days later, Chandler said, look, Dana said that whatever you guys want to do, whatever you feel comfortable doing, that's what we're going to do. So I'm like, all right, cool. So we don't have to go. Let's just keep doing our normal routine.
How many days into this, or what week into this was this the starting of all this? So let's make pretend, you guys are walking in the house and you guys get a few days of training. About what week was this? Was this like the third week already? Was this the fourth week?
Probably about 2.5 weeks in, closer to the
Okay.
third week.
Okay. Nice. So there was still prep time between this point. There were a few days of prep time between this point and then when the fights actually occurred. Is that what I'm guessing?
Yeah, for sure. I want to say, oh man, after the quarterfinal fights, I
Yes.
want to say they probably booked the semifinal fights 10 or 11 days after that. So we had a little over a week to train and prepare for the semis.
Okay. That's good. That's super solid. All right. Uh so then the next thing with the house is Connor comes in, has his team, has his, homie. I don't know if it's homie or a chef that he hired, but made the Irish stew. I saw everybody eating. I didn't see you eating. Kurt, did you try the Irish stew from Connor?
So I want to say the night that Connor came there, we probably had a day or two until weigh-ins for the semifinals.
Okay.
And I think it was a fight night. I can't remember who was fighting. It might have been the John Jones and Cyril Gain fight. And
Okay.
Connor brought his chef over there to cook the Irish stew. And I ain't gonna lie, I was really hungry that night, but I'm like, I had already ate my dinner, right? Because they cooked that for a couple of hours, and I already
Okay.
ate my dinner for the night. I didn't want to eat anything else, so the next day I tried a little bit of it, and I mean, it was okay, man. But like Jason said, you can definitely taste the beer in it. Um,
Okay.
wasn't my favorite. Um,
But it's
that
some
night,
people's
I would have
flavor.
probably
Yeah.
killed it.
Yeah.
I could eat it. That night, I would have probably killed it, but the next day I tried it, I'm like, not quite for me.
For sure. And that answered my next question. I was like, what fight were it looked like y'all watching a fight, but I didn't know. I was gonna be like, which were y'all watching UFC? Was somebody playing video games? Like what was happening on the T? Everybody was gathered around it. Usual and the only thing that popped in my mind was fight nights because usually, when they have the Ultimate Fighter, they'll break out the TV, let everybody watch whenever there's a fight or anything. So was that what was going on?
Yeah, for sure. I want to say we watched quite a few fights, and that at least that's a cool thing they let us do, man. Every fight night, every pay per view, whatever was going on with the UFC that week or weekend, they would bring a TV in the house, let us watch the fights. Definitely wasn't any video games going on, but I want to say that night there was the probably the UFC fight, whatever one that was, and it could have been the Marab and Peter Yan fight. It could have been that fight
Oh
too.
yeah, okay.
And I think right after that, they actually had the slap fights on, so
Oh
guys were able
wow.
to watch the slap fights too.
Because it's a UFC property. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep,
That's dope, man. All right.
giving us a little something to do.
That's I mean, and then and that's cool, right? Like, th- that breaks the monotony up of like being like, oh damn, I'm in this house and I ain't get to, I'm not with my family. I'm with the homies. The homies are cool, but also like let's break up the monotony of this. Did and maybe they didn't show this, so maybe you can't answer this question yet. But like did y'all go out for like, I don't know, like Top Golf, or did y'all go up for like a homies night? Did y'all do something as a team? And again, if you don't think you can say anything because I haven't showed it yet, just just give your best answer. But that's what I'm curious about up until this point. Like they usually like, oh, all the guys went out and we all went to laser tag or something. They show something where it's like team bonding. You know what I mean?
For sure. No, not us. Team Chandler. The only thing I think we really did was, and this was probably our first weekend before anybody even had thought. Chandler invited us all to his house, so we all went over to Chandler's house, and he had one of his guys cook us all steaks and stuff. And that was actually a UFC event night. Can't
Oh,
remember who was
nice.
fighting the main event, but we went over to Chandler's house and hung out for a while, ate some steak, chilled, talked. The only other thing besides going to do the coaches challenge that they'll show here later on, I know Team McGregor Connor took his guys out for like a steak night and somewhere in the casino close by.
Okay.
They actually had a night out and hung out and stuff like that. But as far as Team Chandler, we didn't really go anywhere.
Okay. Would you have liked that, or do you feel like it would have
It
taken
would have
away
been
from
cool.
like the whole feel?
No, it would have been cool, man. Of course, being cooped up in the house, um, it could get kind of boring at times, and that's why we filled our time either with playing cards or pool or darts, chilling in the hot tub, swimming, cooking.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it would have probably been cool, and I want to say there was plans on maybe us going out and doing something like that. It's just, man, our team was so focused and dedicated, we just never got around to it. Um,
Yeah, that
and I
makes
want to
sense.
say, like I said, Connor brought all his guys. They went out somewhere. I think they went out, got a big steak dinner somewhere, which I heard was really cool. I know that the guys on that side really enjoyed going out and hanging out that night, but it was cool.
That's cool, man. So also too, I'm gonna bring up this point again, and maybe they haven't shown it, or maybe they just like were focused only because Austin and Roosevelt were fighting, so they wanted to show those highlights. But did they let all of the semi-finalists make a phone call home? Like, did you get a chance to
Um,
call home?
yeah, yeah. So of course that was a thing in the past, but you never really knew because they don't tell you they're gonna let you do anything. It's
Right.
just You know, I remember the day it happened, man. Jason come running up the stairs and said, "Bro, we get to make a phone call today." And I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome, man!" Because nobody told us that this is a couple days or maybe even a week after the semifinal or the quarterfinal fight. We
Okay.
hadn't fought the semifinals yet, but they let us go ahead and make a phone call home and chat it up with the family, let them know how we were doing, tell them that we were going to the semifinals. So yeah, I'm sure on every guy's episode that is in the semifinals, it's going to show their
They'll
phone
show that
call
footage.
home
Okay.
and stuff like that. So I mean, that was really cool.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I was curious if they're going to show everybody's, or like they just focused on the people who were fighting. Okay, so next question would be, when I'm going to guess, I mean, obviously, like given our prior knowledge of the fights, and there's four fights. There was four fights one time, four fights another time. I'm going to guess everybody fought all at once, because when you look in the stands of this current fight, a lot of the red team is missing. And so I'm going to guess you guys were training in the back, or in the back, getting ready, going whatever way they get you there, and then training and setting up for the fight. Was that the case? Everybody fought all at once?
Yeah. So, and I even wanted us to. The first time that I watched this episode, I was actually driving home from Alabama. I just did a big training session with my coach up there, and I
Nice.
was coming back home, and me and my wife was watching, but it's a it's little phone, so
Right.
couldn't
Yeah.
really see. And I'm watching the road, but I'm wondering, I'm like, man, it is so freaking quiet. Why? I don't hear any of our team yelling for him. And then I got to think about it, and then I was watching tonight, and I'm like, you look in the stands where the teams stand,
Right.
not one red jersey there,
Right.
right? Hunter would have been the only guy that, not in the semifinals, but I do remember Hunter in the back helping out, holding pads, doing shadow boxing with us, doing a little light spar with us in the back, getting ready. So, yeah, we were all in the back. Roe and Austin was the first fight up,
Okay.
and that explains why it was so quiet.
Right. I was gonna be like, man, it's a little less lively than even I'm used to, or anybody's used to, right? With it's just pin. You could hear pin drop in there, bro. You could hear every punch. You could hear every light, just slap of the kick when it was just not a full like hot. It was just you could hear
Mm-hmm.
everything, bro. You could hear everything, and so yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. The only thing I know as far as the quietness and the crowd and the camaraderie is fighters seem to prefer when there's a bit more of an audience. At least that was the case, when it was COVID, right? And fighters are like, it's a little different, given like we're not fighting in front of people. I like to fight in front of people. And then some fighters are like, it just reminds me of a training session at home and like I can focus more. So, just trying to throw all those things in the air for everybody to sort of mull over in that case. But yeah, it was super noticeable and super quiet. And even to the point where Connor is giving coaching advice to
Yeah.
to Austin and and Roosevelt, man. That was funny.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's what we do, right? We're entertainers. We fight to entertain people, and sometimes, you may not be excited or as pumped up to fight, without a crowd. So I think that definitely kind of killed the mood a little bit. And I mean, you hear Dana talk a little bit. He wasn't very thrilled on the fight, but at the same time, you didn't have any kind of crowd even getting behind these guys.
Right.
So I think that hurt the fight a little bit as well. I think Austin and Rowe put on a damn good fight. I mean, they were
Right.
really going back and forth. Very technical fight, but they were throwing, man. It's just I don't think you had the crowd behind pushing that adrenaline for
Right.
them and the crowd getting hype. You didn't have that hype in there. It's just so quiet. So um, I think that's why it seemed like that fight wasn't very good. But at the end of the day, man, that's why we fight. We fight to entertain people, and there wasn't anybody in there really to entertain except for Dana.
Right. Of course, right. I mean, that absolutely makes sense. And yeah, I mean, it seemed like I think the mentality is going in where they were both ready to throw down and put on a performance because I think Roosevelt said it really well, and I'm going to butcher his words, but he said it something to the effect of it's like we're both here. We both realize even if we lose, like we could still be on, the card. Like we just want to put on the best fight that I think we can. And I was like, I think that's a beautiful mentality to have because you want to go in, win, you want to win, but win or lose, like if you put on a good fight, it's not really, it's a, you feel the loss, I'm sure, but if you get put on a UFC and they're like, bro, you fought an excellent fight, you just didn't get it that night, let's put you on, on like an undercard or something, that's still a win too.
For sure, man. And I'm really waiting on some of these guys. I'm really waiting to see some of these guys jump on these UFC cards. I'm waiting on them, especially the guys that may have already dropped a fight and is out. And I use Rowe for an example, man. I mean, definitely deserving of a contract. So I'm waiting to see his name called to come to the top and jump on a UFC card here soon.
Right, for sure, for sure. Yeah, that guy got hands, man, and he's got the full package. But I think some of his best work is just his straight 1-2. Whether it's like whether he's southpaw or orthodox, like that 1-2 is it'll catch you, bro. And he's always lining, always feeling out, always trying to frame out and line up the two. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful to watch him strike. Which is I think I really enjoyed that first round. Like they threw down and it was so good that like you're like I don't know who won that fight like or who won that round because like I was close.
Yeah, that round comes down to who you're more of a fan of because
Right.
that's got to be a biased round. If you're a fan of Rowe, you're going to be like, all right, Rowe won that round. If you're a
Row
fan of
took that, yeah.
Austin, you're going to say, okay, Austin won that round. I mean, the round was super close. The other two rounds, I think you can kind of tell who won them.
Right.
But that first round was close.
It was definitely close, man. Um, okay, so also on this when the weigh-in thing happened, right? Roosevelt had to cut his hair. Bro. What a move. What a move to do, to be like, and I don't think people get it. So I want you to see if you can, like, hopefully explain it. He was like, I would rather not go in the sauna. I'd rather cut my hair than go back in the sauna and have to cut a quarter of a pound. Explain what that's like when you're cutting weight, and to get to that point where you're like, can I shave off a finger? Can I do something anything other than having to sit in a sweat box?
Yeah, for sure, man. My boy Roe. But yeah, we kind of figured he was going to have a little bit of trouble getting those last couple pounds off. And what people don't realize, man, sometimes you might start cutting weight 2 days out from weigh-ins or 3 days out from weigh-ins. And not only that, more than likely, if you're smart, you've been dieting for, you know, a
The whole
month
time.
maybe.
Yeah.
The whole time we was there, guys are dieting, right? So you're not just eating whatever you want. Of course, your body wants all these things. You, your body wants all these things you can't have.
Right.
And and like I said, what people don't realize is Roe was cutting weight the night before the weigh-ins, and then he was cutting weight the day of the weigh-ins, like spending
Wow.
hours in a sauna, and the weight just wasn't coming off like he was used to. So, not sure why. We never really figured it out, but you know, we knew he was struggling a little bit, and we knew it was a possibility. If he was over a quarter of a pound, you done been in a sauna, man. I mean, your body's drained. You don't have much left in. You don't suck everything out of your body. So
Mhm. Mhm.
cutting something as simple as a quarter pound like he was over, could have really damaged Roe and hurt him in that fight. So that's why, man, he's thinking, okay, my hair could be a quarter pound. Not only that, when you're sweating, you got
The
sweat in your
hair's
hair.
holding
It's
a
going to
lot of
make your hair
moisture.
wet a little bit,
Y- Yeah.
and he made a decision to go ahead and cut the weight or cut the hair off, and you know, his hair was exactly a quarter of a pound, so he made the weight.
That's utterly insane. That's insane.
And it's not
I'm
the first time you've seen somebody cut weight, man, or cut their hair off to make weight. Years back, I fought a guy named Desmond Green for the
Desmond
Titan
Green
FC
did it.
featherweight title.
Yeah, Desmond Green
You
did it.
know,
I interviewed him. Yeah. He cut his hair to
and
make weight.
yeah, and he was probably over a full pound. Now, he probably had more than Roe, but I mean, Des, man, he had a lot of hair. So I want to say when he cut his dreads off, he probably had a pound of hair. So
Yeah.
I know he cut his hair and made weight.
I think I remember him saying, like, it was about a pound, and he still, when I interviewed him, it was back in the day, right, when I was doing Loaded Joes, but I remember him saying, he's like, I still keep my dreads on my dresser just to remind me. And I was like, bro, that's insane. But yeah, that was funny when you brought that up, because like that was instantly when I saw him cut his hair. I'm like, that's funny, man. I remember when Des Green cut his hair to try and make weight,
Yep.
and he made it. But yeah, I'm glad that you gave some I think enlightenment on what that process is like. And I even want to ask a further question, Kurt. And this
Yep.
is more speculative thing. And I think as a fighter, you'd have a better answer for this maybe than is in my head. But do you think? And I don't know how far. I mean, I know uh, Roosevelt fought pretty early on in the house, but do you think the multiple weight cuts within such a short amount of time is it, that impacts the body, whether you like to think it can or not? So when you're cutting it for the second time, it might not be the same as the first time. Does that theory sort of hold any water?
I'm for sure.
Okay.
Like I said, it's hard enough to make weight the first time, and then
Yeah.
have to turn right back around and do it again that quick. And I feel like Roe did not have any problems cutting weight the first time. Everybody's weight cut actually really went smooth. And I think it went so smooth the first time that maybe he thought, well, let me have a little bit more of this tonight. Let me have a little bit more of this tonight. And, his body being, you know, dieting for so long and then cutting weight, putting a little bit of weight back on, I think that, he was feeling good and he felt like the weight cut would be just as easy, and you know, and it wasn't.
Yeah, it's almost as like the body wants to hang on to everything because you would put it in starvation mode, you'd put it in dehydration mode. So almost with that logic, you would think like to be like, okay, I may need to start my weight cut a half a day earlier, a day earlier than I normally would, just to work this out slower, rather than I know I can do it all at once when my body's 100%. My body, my kidneys, everything may not be 100% right now. I've got to give that a little bit more time. Does that sort of hold weight?
Oh, definitely. Because anytime you take that much weight off your body, and for
Mm-hmm.
me, I used to make those weight cuts to 145 pounds. And I just felt like
Right.
whenever I would make that weight at 145 pounds, my body would just starve for everything. Right. So whenever I started rehydrating and eating again to put that weight back on, man, I was 175 pounds the next day because my body's just trying to take everything back in you know. And even for me, for this weight cut, I cut weight once to fight Lee, and
Mm-hmm.
but I even said I didn't go crazy, man. I stayed dieting really the whole time. I really didn't have anything in the house I could really have a big cheat meal with. I know a
Mm-hmm.
lot of guys cooked a couple different type of meals, but it was nothing crazy. It was nothing like we're not eating fried chicken or McDonald's or Burger King or anything.
Right.
Um, at the worst, I would jack some of Jason's um, queso chips or something and eat his lifesavers. But other than that, I didn't really go off of a diet. I kind of stayed pretty strict to myself.
And I think that's important, right? Especially in the interim when you're like, okay, I need to cut weight again. I can't regain maybe if I lost 20 pounds, I can't regain all of that. If I can keep it at 15 right now, the less is better approach at this point until I need to cut weight again. And then, whatever happens afterwards, cool. But I think was that sort of the approach you took to just try to keep it like as balanced as you could in the interim?
Yeah, I just wanted to keep it balanced, man. Keep my weight low.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, I would probably get back up in the 70s after I make a weight cut to 155. And I want to say I probably topped 168,
Okay.
167, somewhere like that. So I didn't really get too big. So after that first weight cut, I had to fight. That night I went home. I did drink. I want to say I drank two Modelo's, just celebrated my victory that
Right,
night. But
right.
the next day, man, I got right back on it. The next day, we was right back to work. I was dieting again,
Mhm.
keeping my weight low, getting ready for the next one because we knew we had another weight cut to make.
Because the next one was coming, man. Yeah. Bro, this is so insightful. This is super good now. And I figured too, right? Like first of all, let me rewind a little bit. Again, I figured, 20 pound weight cut is like, that's pretty normal. But when you were like, yeah, I kept it within 15, I'm like, yeah, that seems about what I was thinking in my head. But to rewind it a little bit, did you say you went from 45 to 75? Did I hear that correctly?
Oh, for sure, I did
Bro,
that,
what?
man. And but see, this is the big advantage that this is why everybody wants to cut to that lower weight class because you feel like you get the size advantages like that, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest lightweight, right? Uh,
Right.
in mixed martial arts, but I was a really big featherweight. I was built really
Yeah.
big for a featherweight fighter. Um, so yeah, and that's one of the main reasons, man. I would cut from, or I would start my diet somewhere between 175 pounds to 180 pounds, and I would work my way
Sheesh.
probably to 159, and then from 159, boom, I cut all that weight. I cut about 14, 15 pounds, and
Wow.
I would make weight for 145 pounds. But super hard. And of course, the older that I would get, a little
Mhm.
bit harder it would become. So that's why I made the decision to go back up to 155 pounds because I feel like I'm not the smallest guy. I'm not the biggest guy. Sometimes for me, I need to get the right matchups in order to succeed. But normally when I'll cut from about 170 to 155, and that's not as hard on my body as it was at
Right.
145.
Right. I think you'd rather that at this point be like, okay, so what if I'm not the biggest guy, but at least like my body's not drained, or I can go for a little bit longer if the fight goes on a little bit longer, or yeah, I'm gonna prolong my career at this case rather than be like, oh, I just made weight for that fight. I can't do it. My body won't be able to do it again. It shuts down. Nobody wants to put me in at 145 because I can't make weight at that point.
For sure. And like I said, when I cut to 55, man, I'm still a decent size 55er. Um, I'm decently strong for that weight class, depending on who I'm fighting, but my speed is always there. I always have my speed, I always have my movement, I always have my cardio. So
Hmm.
as long as I can push those things, normally I'm okay.
Yeah, maximize where you maximize your strengths, man, and that's where you feel strong. That's what you got to do, man. Um, well, I love it. I appreciate all the insider trader secrets that you're giving us tonight, and I'm sure as the season continues along, um, we'll get some more insight from you. And I'm gonna imagine, I know you probably can't give it away, but the way that they had the fights on the list, that's how they're probably gonna go. Is that sound about right?
Well, I can tell you. So tonight we had Roe and Austin.
Right.
Next week, as of course they announced, is going to be Brad and Timmer.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then after Brad and Timmer will be me and Jason, and
Okay.
then Rico and Cody will be the final fight on the final episode.
Right. That's how it looked like on the thing. So you were the third fight. Okay. So they're going
Yep.
in
So
that
as far,
order. So
yeah,
perfect. So everybody out there, if you don't remember that order, go back and watch this episode. Go look at the little poster that they had, and it had all the fights on there. And yeah, I'm gonna be interested to see what Brad and Timur do next week, because I think both of them are very excellent fighters, and like everybody seemed to want to fight Timur, and Brad seems to have a bit of he's got that a chip on his shoulder, I guess, with the maybe the competition or everybody. I don't. We talked about it early on in the season, and he's now not even on y'all's team. So
yep.
be
The whole
interested to see
team
what that looks
switched.
like. The only one that switched. We're gonna see what that looks like next week. But Kurt, again, always appreciate you coming on and
Yeah, for sure.
just letting people know, what's going on the show and what goes on. I think not only in the mind of an MMA fighter, but like in the life, and sort of giving that great perspective. I really appreciate that always. But Kurt, I'm gonna stop talking. You let people know where they can find you, and shout out the new podcast again. Everybody, go check out the clips. If you guys haven't seen a full episode, go check out the clips of the podcast on Instagram. They're posting clips, and it's great. Like it's super entertaining. But let people know where they can find that. Let people know where they can find you, Kurt.
Yeah, for sure. So, find me on Instagram at Kurt the Hurt Holobaugh. Go give me a like. Also, follow the Contenders and the Pretenders is our podcast we just started. We're breaking down, different fight cards every day, breaking down some stuff on TUF. So definitely, cool to just sit back and watch us chat away about that, man. If anybody's got any questions about it, hit me up. Follow us on Instagram. Also, like and subscribe the Contenders and the Pretenders on YouTube.
That's it right there, man. Everybody go follow Kurt. Everybody go follow Contenders and Pretenders. And then everybody go follow Nine Nerd Yards. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the comment button, tell your friend to tell their friends, and we can all be friends, especially if they're UFC fans. And everybody don't miss UFC this weekend, and don't miss boxing this weekend. Two huge cards. Do you have as far as main events go on each one of those, you got a preference? First of all, we'll start with boxing. Errol Spence, Crawford. Any pick there?
Who's Earl Spence fighting?
Terrence Crawford.
Terrence Crawford. Man, that's close, but I'm gonna go Earl Spence.
Okay.
Close one. I'm a Earl Spence fan.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I have to be an Errol Spence fan. He's from Texas. He's from Dallas. He was on the Golden Gloves. I think he was on the. Was he on the Olympic team? No. But he was for sure Golden Gloves. And I'm just a huge Terrence Crawford fan. I loved his come up ever since I think one of the first fights I saw him when he fought Yuriokis Gamboa back in like 20, I guess it was like 14. So I'm going with Crawford, but I don't think anybody's wrong in picking either one, because it will be a close fight. And I'm so glad that they finally made it.
For
It's
sure.
boxing politics. What can you do? And then we have Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje 2 on UFC side. Who you got in that one, my man? I'm gonna guess who you're
Man,
going with, but who do you got?
I'm gonna tell you, I remember watching that first fight. I think it was about 5 years ago, and
Yeah.
man, amazing fight. And I think it's gonna be the same fight, if not a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I'm a big Justin Gaethje fan too, but I'm gonna have to ride with my Louisiana
I knew it. I
fellow
knew
Dustin
it.
Poirier,
I
man.
knew it. We riding with the hometown boy. I'm not mad at that. My heart, it's one of those things. My heart's telling me I want, Justin Gaethje. He can come back. But one of the things I love about Dustin Poirier is seeing the evolution of him as a fighter. Every single time you see him, he's even when he lost to Khabib, right? Like he still looked great. Like it didn't look like this was like a mollywop. You know what I mean? So, yeah, he probably will do it. But I'm gonna ride with Gaethje. They're both fun. Gaethje always tries to make it a slobber knocker. So
It's gonna be. I mean, it's definitely gonna be. It's no way it can't be a fight of the year. Can It's just not unless a guy gets clipped early in the first round and gets put
right.
away. Other than that, I don't see it happening. I see the fight going at least to the third round. May not go all five, but at least to the third. So
I I got it. I got it probably like at least 2 rounds. Like because just I think Gaethje's gonna want to get that one back. He's not
yeah,
unintelligent. I just think he's gonna want to get that one back. But 3 rounds, I feel like that's a everybody put a bet on 3 rounds. I think that's a good call too. So uh Kurt, I appreciate the predictions, appreciate the time.
yep.
Everybody out there, I appreciate y'all for tuning in, liking, subscribing, everything that y'all do. I do appreciate it. Stay tuned because tomorrow we will be breaking down Secret Invasion series finale. And stay tuned for next week because we'll be back next Tuesday breaking down the rest of the Ultimate Fighter. And I appreciate if you're watching live or if you're watching on the replay, morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time it is. We do appreciate you. And until the next time, we will see you. Peace.